Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 5 replays in this video, and we're going to be covering 2 of the other tanks that are in the Girls and Panzer collaboration. The BT-42 Jatkosota and the Panzer IV H Ankou. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the BT-42. Now that is the only time I'm going to try and say Jatkosota, because I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. But I'll keep screwing it up if I keep saying that. So BT-42. I've got 3 replays in this BT-42 and then 2 replays in the Panzer IV H Ankou because, well, that tank's been around for a very long time. Most people know what it's about, and it's basically just a Panzer IV H. Whereas the BT-42 is brand spanking new, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a derp tank. It's just a derp scout, which means you just take your brain out and have a laugh derping around. Don't really take it too seriously, and you'll just have a lot of fun. And that's what it is. It's just a fun tank. Derp is love. Derp is life, people. It's a great time. So, the BT-42 Jatkosota. I really hope I'm saying it right. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. So, this vehicle has a 52 km/h top speed with a 23 km/h reverse speed, a 500 horsepower engine, which is 33.33 horsepower per ton. That's a satisfying horsepower per ton ratio. Which means that you fly up to that 52 km/h top speed. If you wanted to, you could make that faster and run the traction system, and you would go at 57 km/h if you did that. You've got a 20% internal fire chance, which means this tank is highly likely to get set on fire. And yes, its engine gets knocked out all the time when you get shot in the back end, and that is quite likely to lead to a fire too. So be very, very careful of that in your BT-42. You got 46 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which means the tank already does turn very, very quickly, with ground resistances that don't really hold the tank back whatsoever. 294 meters of still concealment with the build that I run means that you are fairly stealthy. You're not the stealthiest light tank in the universe, but a lot of that is because of just like how tall it is. This turret looks like a Frankenstein-y turret that's on the BT-42. It's really quite funny how big this turret is to fit this 114 PSV.H/18 gun. It's, yeah, it's an ugly, ugly looking tank, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And that means that, yeah, your camo rating suffers a little bit, and the fact that you've only got 294 meters of still concealment with the build that we run. We've got 461 meters of view range, which means it's good enough to spot most vehicles at tier 5. And because you've got decent camo as well, you can do that scout role pretty easily in a tier 5 lobby, as they will actually struggle to spot you, and you won't struggle to really spot them. Problem being that you're not the fastest light tank in the universe. But if you play it like that derp scout, where you're going around trying to find the opportunities to derp, then you'll still be able to scout people, but it's not particularly your primary function. You're not a true out-and-out scout tank in this vehicle. You're more like a very mobile derp gun. So we've got a 19.55 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed. That is atrocious. You are seeing this in this replay. The turret rotation speed is very slow on the BT-42, and that can be a real hampering issue that you have to get used to with the tank. It's just how slow that turret turns. And if you want to get your gun on target quicker, your best thing to do is turn the tank towards where you're trying to get the turret, and that will get the turret there faster. You got 0.97 accuracy during rotation, which for a derp gun actually isn't that bad. It's pretty bad, to be honest, but it's for a derp gun, not that horrendous. You've got a 5.1 accuracy during movement, though, which is utterly, utterly tragic. That is terrible. That means your aim circle will become massive as soon as you move the tank, and as you're seeing, the bloom is huge on this derp gun. But you have a 2.5 second aim time, which is quick enough to aim in, get the gun aimed in, and then derp away. Because it is that derpy how it's a gun. So it's always going to be derpy. We've got a 0.45 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which, yeah, adds to that derp factor. It's very derpy, and it will miss a lot of shots. And especially since the shell velocity is so bad at 357 meters a second, you will miss a lot of shots. That's why I say it's just one to not take seriously and just to run around, have an absolute blast, have a laugh, just derping away. If you like derp guns, you will like this tank, because that's what it does. You've got 5 degrees gun depression, which is very limiting in this vehicle. So bear that in mind on ridgelines, that you will really struggle to depress the gun onto targets. That 8.99 second reload, like I say, with the 2.4k DPM if you were to penetrate the shots. You have a 105 penetration on the standard heat round, which is not really going to be that useful, which is why I load full premium heat, which has 125 penetration, with then a whole whack of standard HE, which has 57mm penetration for 450 alpha, whereas the heat round has 370. I just feel like the 125 pen you're going to get on the premium heat round is a lot more usable than the 105 pen that you get on the standard heat round. So I'd just rather, if I'm just going to be having a laugh in this tank, load the full 125 penetration heat rounds, and then have a whole whack of HE, which will be my primary round I fire out of this vehicle, because that's the thing. If you look at this tank and go, the penetration is terrible, that's because its primary round that you are supposed to fire is HE. That is the round that you want to be firing so that you're just derping away and constantly splashing people for about 80 to a 150 to 160 damage, because that's generally what you're going to be doing. And yeah, you have 357 meters a second shell velocity, which is utterly tragic, but it is a derp gun. You do have the kind of shell velocity, though, where you could RBRT over ridge lines, and because you can't, even though you can't see the target, the shell velocity is that bad that the shells kind of loop and they will still hit the target over that ridge line. So it's something you can do with the BT-42. So that first game, you did see us finish with 2.3k damage on a loss on Sand River. Sad, sad times for us in our BT-42. But now we're on the second replay, which is in a Tier 7 lobby, so the worst matchmaking we can possibly get in the BT-42. And we're on Ensk, which is not the best for a light tank, but we'll see what we can do. So I've told you the statistics of the vehicle while I've got it fully kitted out, but what do I actually run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I actually run a fairly standard light tank crew, but the equipment is something that's a bit more set up for this vehicle. So in terms of the crew, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. All three gun perks because, well, it's a derp gun. The derp gun is derpy. It's terrible. You really want to help it out as much as humanly can do. The Camouflage Expertise to make the camo in general better on this vehicle, so I can stay unspotted in a lot of situations like you saw on Sand River. With the Muffled Shot to reduce the effect of firing on the camo as well, so that again, when I fire this gun, I can stay unspotted in a lot more situations. You did see that a little bit in effect when we were on Sand River. With the Advanced Reload, the camo net and optics. Now, I don't run a gun rammer on this vehicle. Why? Because it's a derp gun. I'm not really relying on my derp, so what I wanted to do was run the Advanced Reload, which is the ammo swapper, to be able to switch between the HE and the heat, because the flexibility between the two rounds is something that is very, very nice to have. So that's what I wanted to do with this ammo swapper. Then the camo net, to get that camo down to 294 meters of still concealment, so I can be sneaky and then catch up, absolutely catch people out and derp them with this gun, and I'll hit them hard, especially if I get round behind someone and I can pen them with the 57mm of penetration on the HE. If I can stay unspotted and get this gun aimed in, that's what I want to do, so that's why I run the camo net. And optics, because while it's not the out-and-out scout tank, to be perfectly honest, you still want to make your view range as good as possible, getting it to that 461 meters of view range so that you can spot for yourself, spot for your team, and also not really get out-spotted that easily as you are in this kind of scout tank. But there's plenty of ways you can run the vehicle. Like I say, you could run the Advanced Loader instead to get the DPM a little bit better, or to get the reload just generally a little bit better. You could run vents to make everything about the tank generally better. You could, instead of the camo net, run the traction system so that you can go at 57 kilometers an hour. It's really down to you and how you feel comfortable playing the tank, and especially if you feel like you're only ever going to fire HE out of this tank, because that is the primary shell to fire. And you're never going to really use the heat rounds because you don't really know where you're going to be able to pen them, or because you can't be bothered with the derpy accuracy of firing those heat rounds. You could just drop the ammo swapper and, again, run the traction system, or run the powertrain in conjunction with the traction system to go even faster. You know, it's really down to you how you feel comfortable playing the vehicle. So this second replay is on Ensk, like I say, in a Tier 7 lobby, which is not great. Really, really not great. And it's kind of gone a bit weird. The team layout's been a bit odd, so I was just playing it by ear and being a bit cheeky. And we found a Stern Panzer and a T25/2, and I was having absolutely none of that. We've loaded the heat round with the ammo swapper, and we put a shot straight through the side of that Churchill 7's turret for 374. Those heat rounds are beautiful when they work. Same as penning the HE round. We switched to the HE to RBRT the shot to the Churchill 7. Sadly, take a hit, but we do whack him for 140 odd. But we have to get away from that situation because I don't really want to take a hit. Now, if you're thinking that your headset's broken and the audio's a bit laggy on this replay, it is a little bit because when my controller batteries died, for some reason it messed up a bit of the audio of this recording. So, yeah, it's not you. Don't adjust your sets. It is just a bit behind when you fire, well, when I fire the shells and stuff. So we're looking through the window. I thought I had some lower plate shots at the stern panzer. Sadly, the G1R takes the position that I was using just to fire through the window. We missed the first shot because, well, this gun's derpy. The second shot hits the upper plate. I felt like I could pen the lower plate of the stern panzer if it worked, but sad times, it was not to be. The stern panzer crosses the open, though. I'm hoping to get a shot of heat through the side, but heat problems happens, and that is we hit the spaced armour, and the heat round just gets absorbed, which means that we don't pen the stern panzer. Really, what I need to do is actually hit his superstructure there on the top section when he was crossing sideways on, but there we go. Now he's looking our way. I went, absolutely not, I don't want that. We're going to load the 125 pen heat rounds to try and get a shot into this T25/2. Because I couldn't remember whether I could actually pen that with 125 pen, and no, sadly, I can't. That's one of those where you go, T25/2, that's got absolutely no armour, it'll be an easy pen, right? Right? And then you bounce, and he whacks me for 240 odd, leaving me on 6 hit points. So I'm going to chance it, risk it for a biscuit. We're going to load the heat round, get away from this T25/2, and try and surprise the stern panzer in the rear and finish him off with a heat round. So we get up behind the stern panzer and finish him off for 295, putting us up to 2.7k damage with 213 assistance damage. And it's 3-2 on the scores, which means there's a G-row somewhere and that T25/2. So we load HE. What we're going to try and do is catch this T25/2 out and try and get a derp shell in. So we see him. He sees us clearly. And I don't want to take his shot. So I'm waiting to get unspotted to see if I can get cheeky and poke back out and shoot him. But we get unspotted. I'm leaving it a little bit of time, and there we go. He's actually managed to pull back without getting spotted there. I just wanted to leave it that little extra split second of time while I was unspotted so that he didn't just try and blind fire me. Spoilers. And he didn't, because I thought he might just take a blind fire if I poked out. So we're going to poke out around the corner of here. We'll aim up the shell, put the shot in for HE for 100 damage, leaving 99 hit points, which means he's a one-shot now for the HE. So I'm going to wait till I get unspotted, then I'm going to poke round and try and HE him again. Now we're unspotted, it's time to get... Oh. Yeah, he wasn't thick. He wasn't thick. He managed to blind fire us and shut us down, and sadly, we ended up losing that game. We're finished with 3 kills, 2.8k damage, 213 assistance, the ace tanker, the Prescutus medal, the high caliber, with a 1329 base XP on a loss. Sad times there for Mr. BT-42, but with a bit of foreshadowing there, we shouldn't have poked back out. We should have given it that, like we did a second ago, we should have given it that extra second to wait to see if he did try and blind fire it, and if he did, then we could poke out and finish him off. But, yeah, we just rushed it, and sadly, he did end up killing us, and we lost the game because of that, realistically. But we're on to the third and final replay for the BT-42, and we are on Thickball Ridge. And on Thickball Ridge, what we're going to do is, well, I was thinking of going to the position at G6 and trying to shoot anyone that crosses the 8-9 line, trying to shoot anyone that might get spotted at D4, D5, C5, that area around there. But then I decided, you know what? We're a BT-42. This is tier 5. We're just here to have fun. Let's just be aggressive and see what happens, because it's tier 5. I think we're in a tier 6 game, to be fair, but we're in tier 5. We just have a laugh around here, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? So we go for the RBRT into the VK3001H. We end up finding the light tank has already lost most of his hit points. Oh, first time spotted, and he's already lost all his hit points. Somebody's had a driving accident. I would know nothing about driving accidents in my tanks, okay? I will have nothing of it. I'm a decent tank driver. See, I didn't say great, I said decent tank driver, okay? But anyway, because we spotted that VK, he got killed. We've still got the medium tank that's in front of us now, the Panzer IV Hydrostat. Now, if I fire HE at his rear, I should be able to pen it. At his side and avoid the tracks, I should actually be able to pen that with a derp gun. Heat rounds, definitely will. And probably more likely to fire the heat rounds at that guy. We go for the blind fire on that medium tank and we hit it. Okay, we hit it, I'll take that. We load the heat rounds, put the shot in for 392. I'll take the roll. 392 there as we finish off the Panzer IV Hydra stat. Load heat rounds to try and go through the Panzer IV H. Fire it at will, hit him for 344, which is what I knew I could do, because again, the heat round at that sort of plate, I can pen a Panzer IV H with 125 pen. An 88, however, I will not pen, and this is where your primary focus of firing HE is, especially against vehicles that you know you're never going to do anything to them with the heat rounds. You fire the HE, because HE is inconsistent. It is what it is. But if you try and splash the weakest armor plate that they have, you will do more damage firing the HE. So the VK-3001H is currently behind this rock, but not quite enough. And since it's a derp gun, we don't have to pen to do damage. All we have to do is splash, and that's what we do to finish off that VK-3001H. We're up to 27 assistance damage. Yes, a mighty 27 assistance damage. 1257 damage. And this is where the derpy gun handling is going to come into play, because we're trying to snipe this 88, and that's going to be a bit of a struggle. So we go for the blind fire on that 88. Now, that's a mistake. Why is that a mistake? Well, that's because we have 357 meters a second shell velocity, which means our shells do loop, which means if we can see stuff in the distance, even if it's out of bounds, out of the map, the shells will loop towards that target, which means they will always fly over them if we try and blind fire. It's why you can't blind fire in derp guns unless you're shooting a specific mound. It just is what it is. You're very unlikely to ever hit them, which is sad times. But the 88's moved into a position where it's a bit easier to derp him. Sadly, we're still having derp gun issues and we're missing the shots. I mean, you can see how big that reticle is, even with everything kitted out. It's still quite large. We finally hit the 88 there for 135. Should hopefully finish him off with the next HE shell as long as it hits around that cupola area. But derp guns be derp gunning, and sadly we end up missing him. Can we finish off this? I want to finish off this 88 because then I can progress my fight. Because we know there's people in the base currently, or towards our spawn. We need to go back there to defend if we can. So the Panzer IV H gets shut down. We've killed the 88. I really should get moving, but I think I was texting at this point. Distracted tanking. Distracted tanking leads to bad driving errors and bad. That could have been a roller area. That error. It is what it is. Don't text and drive, kids. It's a bad idea. Or text and tank. Yeah, don't TT. Don't text and tank. But anyway, there's 5 tanks left on the enemy team. What I want to do is go down this central river and then try and get up on top of the hill. If I can get up to the hill and then try and spot the people that are currently around our base, because we know there's at least 1 or 2 around there, we could have a good time here. But we want to see if there's any team on that hill, so what we want to do is get to the little ridge line in front of us, and we can try and spot a little bit of the hill and get away with it. But here's where our camo comes into play, because we spot the KV-2, he doesn't see us. But we've loaded the heat round, because I know I can go through the side of a KV-2. There we go, we break his engine, he gets penned by the guy behind me. I've got the heat loaded, I've got the RBRT in, we slowly but surely drive round. He quite hasn't got the turret on target yet, and we finish him off with that heat round, securing our 4th kill of this game. We see the Death Toaster and the artillery. We really want that piggy if we can. Oh, nearly rolled it, it's fine, my driving's great, okay, it's fantastic. The Death Toaster is in a perfect spot for me to shoot, but we should have aimed it. We should have aimed it at that split second longer, and we'd have had the kill there. But derp guns be derp gunning, and we missed. So that artillery takes a hit from our arty. And I decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to ignore the artillery. I feel like he's going to get killed by one of my team. We'll try and get the RBRT on the move as we cross over towards the hill. But they have got a heavy tank in our base, which is the Churchill 7. So I need to get over there to spot the Churchill for my artillery so they can shut him down, and then we can just win the game and make sure that we don't randomly get capped out. So again, this is where the camo is nice and having the good view range, because we spot the Churchill 7. He didn't spot us until we poked too far out. Go for the HE shot straight through the rear of that Churchill 7 for 390 odd, which is great. He's still got his rear to us though. You know what? I can take a hit from that guy. So we put the shot in. We pen him with the HE in the rear for 316. Finish him off for our 5th kill of this game in the BT-42. And we've had a really nice game for this tank. We've just had an absolute laugh running around, derping away, and that's what the BT-42 is all about. There's one tank left on the enemy team. It is the artillery from earlier on. I thought he was going to die much quicker than he has, but he hasn't. So we can hopefully secure our top gun on this artillery, and it'll be a good time. Again, we don't have to pen him. If we just fire the HE, we can just splash him, and that way, well, easy kill. And there he is, hiding against the rock. Make sure it's aimed in, and truly, make sure this gun is aimed in, because otherwise you will miss. Pain if you don't. And we managed to shut down the gorilla there for our 6th kill with the victory. 6 kills, 3.1k damage, 2.2k base XP with 683 assistance damage, 102,000 silver for a tier 5 light tank. That's pretty good. That's pretty good going in terms of silver earnings. And we did finish with the high caliber top gun and the ace tanker as well for that 2.2k base XP. A really great game for the BT-42. And yeah, that's the BT-42. It is a really fun tank to play. It's just an absolute laugh. Just run around derping. It's one of those that it's just a meme tank. That's what it is. It's a meme. And you can have a good meme with it. You can have a good laugh. You just got to get used to the derpy gun handling, like all derp guns, and how slow that turret traverse is, because that turret traverse is slow. But now I've got 2 replays for you in the Panzer IV H Ankou. Now, this tank used to be called the Panzer IV... Was it Panzer IV H Gup? I think it was the Panzer IV H Gup. But back then, that's because this came out, this collaboration was years and years and years ago. And it was years before we got any other Gup tanks. So they changed the naming convention of it so that it goes back to the school for which the Panzer IV H came from. And then when they brought in the other Panzer IV H, or the other Girls and Panzer vehicles, it fits in a bit more with the naming convention. Like the Koromoramine and the BT-42 Jatkosota. So, the Panzer IV H, because the Ankou is basically just a Panzer IV H. With the build that I run, it's got a 40 km/h top speed, with an 18 km/h reverse speed, 440 horsepower engine, which is 17.53 horsepower per ton ratio. So yes, you've got a good power to weight. You will hit 40 km/h top speed, but the tank is pretty slow. It just is. The Panzer IV H is a slow vehicle, and to be honest, it's a tank that I don't particularly enjoy, the Panzer IV H Ankou. Why is that? Because I liked the Panzer IV H with the derp gun. You know me. I've already said it once in this video. Derp is love. Derp is life. And I love the Panzer IV H with the derp gun, but it doesn't get it in this vehicle. It gets its 75mm gun, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But, yeah, it is what it is. You're not the most mobile vehicle in the universe in this Panzer IV H Ankou at 40 km/h top speed. You do have a 20% internal fire chance, which is very likely to happen. This tank does get set on fire quite a lot, just like the Panzer IV H does. And your engine will break very often, as well as the engine is in the front of the tank, so if they shoot you through the upper or lower plate, your engine will also break every time, nearly, which is pain for the Ankou. Used to be a lot more painful for the Gup back when they had no reusable repair kits, because it happened all the time, and then you were just left with a terrible, terrible time, which was very, very slow, just like in the standard Panzer IV H. You've got 32 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which is neither slow nor fast for track traverse. It's pretty decent for the tank. 2.21 on soft, 1.01 on medium, and 0.92 on firm. Means your ground resistances aren't that great, and they can hold the tank back a little bit, but generally because you've got good power to weight, you will get towards that top speed. 276 meters of steel concealment is very nice for this Panzer IV H Ankou, and that is something that you really want to help out, because this thing is made of spitting Kleenex. You want to be able to make sure that this thing stays unspotted in a lot of situations so that you can farm up with what is pretty decent DPM for tier 5. You've got 286 meters of on-the-move concealment as well, thanks to silent driving with the build that I run, which means that it's very, very close to your steel concealment, which is pretty stealthy for this vehicle. You've got 448 meters view range, which isn't the best view range in the universe, because it's, I think, 350 base, which means you are fairly blind, which means you really want to help the view range on this vehicle so you're not getting out-spotted all that much. And you can spot for yourself and use the good camo that the Ankou has. You've got 47.78 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which is way quicker than the hull traverse, which is very nice. The turret does snap on target very quickly. You also have a 1.26 accuracy during rotation, which is abysmal. The aim circle does bloom out rather large when you turn this tank, so be very careful of that in the fact that that is very poor. You've got 2.22 accuracy during movement as well, which is really not that great, which means in combination of each other, yeah, your aim circle does bloom out a lot, and you have to rely on the aim time, which is 2.12 seconds, which isn't too bad, but the aim circle does become rather large on this vehicle when you turn and move the tank. You got 10 degrees of gun depression on the Ankou, which is pretty decent for the Panzer IV H, but it's the same as the standard Panzer IV H, where you get 10 degrees over the front, but you get a limited traverse of your, a limited gun depression on your side because of the side skirts over the vehicle. I think it goes down to either 6 or 8 degrees. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but you do lose gun depression over the side of the vehicle. So if you come over a ridgeline, you want to be aiming over the front of the tank. You have a .32 accuracy at 100 meters with this 75mm gun, which isn't too bad, but it's the shell velocity that makes it feel fairly derpy, this gun. You've got a 2.92 second reload, which is 2.2k DPM, which is a very fast firing gun, and 2.2k DPM for a tier 5 is pretty good. With 110 penetration on the standard AP, that is a little bit low though, and it can struggle at times to be able to penetrate targets, and you will need to fire a healthy amount of premium rounds at times to be able to deal with at least tier 6s and 7s especially, but even some of the more heavily armoured tier 5s you do struggle with that AP at 110, and you've got to load the premium 158 penetration APCR rounds to be able to deal with the enemy vehicles. 110 damage on the standard round is also fairly low in terms of damage, which is another thing that, while you have a very fast reload, sometimes the damage is a little bit low when you're hitting people, and you'll often see 90 rolls, 95 rolls, that kind of thing. You've got 790 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 988 meters a second shell velocity on the premium APCR. Now, that means that both shells are below average in terms of their velocity, and especially the AP round will feel pretty derpy, and is most of the reason why this gun feels pretty inaccurate as well, because you have to give a lot of lead to hit your targets. And the thing with the Ankou is you do have a 135% silver bonus, which is actually pretty decent for a tier 5, which means it can make silver, but generally because you have to fire a decent amount of premium rounds, you won't make quite as much silver as other premium tanks, but to be honest, you're not really buying a tier 5 premium tank for that. And to be fair, the BT-42 also has a 140% silver bonus as well. I did forget to mention that, which means that tank actually does make good silver for a premium tank at tier 5, and especially if you're just firing the HE. You're not firing the expensive rounds all that often, and you will make pretty decent silver, which is what you saw in some of those replays. So with the Panzer IV Ankou, I've given you all the statistics while I've fully kitted out, but what do I actually run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I run a fairly standard medium tank setup on this vehicle to try and help the camo and stuff. I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, with the Advanced Loader, the Camo Net, and Optics. Optics to be able to get the 448 meters of view range so that we can at least try and spot for ourselves in this tank. The Camo Net to get that 276 meters of still concealment so we can be pretty damn stealthy alongside the Camouflage Expertise and the Silent Driving. The Advanced Loader to get the best out of the DPM. And like I say, this gun can be derpy, and especially if you don't help it with the accuracy during movement and rotation especially, the aim circle is huge. So you really want to help it with all 3 gun perks so that you can try and keep this gun ready to fire at all times and make the most of the DPM on the Panzer IV H Ankou. But there's plenty of ways, again, you could run this vehicle. If you're not really bothered about the camo, again, you could quite easily run the traction system, and you will go at 44 kilometers an hour, and you will hit that. And having that faster track traverse as well is quite nice for the Ankou. I did used to run the traction system for a little bit, but I felt it way nicer to actually just have the better camo, because it was a lot more useful in a lot of situations. And it really does help you stay unspotted and farm a lot easier in a lot of situations as well. Whereas if you're not running the camo net and camo skills, you just get spotted, and because you are made of spitting Kleenex, because you have no armor, you just get eviscerated by everything, and yeah, it's not a good time. So that's why I run the camo. But it is always down to you and how you feel comfortable playing a vehicle. So this second replay, we're here on this map, which is Nomini Nom. And on Nomini Nom, we've taken a very aggressive position here at C4. We've lost a bit of hit points to the artillery, but we've got the position that I want to be in, which can be very good for cutting out people attacking like that captured KV-1, and people that decide to attack too aggressively like this T-34. Now, it is a good position to take, but it is also a very risky position to take, because if anyone goes on the ridgeline in front of me at C45, there's not really... I have to kill that tank. There's not really much room for my allies to cover me because of the way that the rock formation is, which means if you don't... Well, yeah, if you're not in a strong enough tank, you can find it very, very awkward to fight in that position. So we're up to 426 damage with 715 assistance, and we're just waiting to see if the Panzer IV H gets a shot into us. I did manage to lock on there with RB, with auto aim, and I thought, I can't actually see him. Let's just try and see if we could shoot him. But, well, we don't. We end up hitting the ridgeline, which was, well, silly. And once again, kids, don't text and tank, all right? Because that's exactly what's happening right now. I end up putting auto drive on, and then going, oh no, no, pull back, run away. Thank Lord I didn't die there. That could have gone very, very badly, but there we go. We're up to 846 assistance with 761 damage. The P-43 YOLOs out into the open in front of us, so we poke over, put a shot at him, which again, a little bit risky, because they could have anyone that was sitting back at B78 also. They could have someone sitting at E7, and this could be very, very dangerous, but we're fine. We missed the RBRT at point blank, though, and I was a bit annoyed at that one. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure we probably should have hit that at this range, but okay, game, you do you. We're up to, oh, that's a very satisfying damage number. We're gonna ruin that, aren't we? 999 damage. We'll do, partying like it's 999. So, we're going to progress. We're going to see if we can get to position to shoot the medium tank, the VK-3002M in the back, but he gets shut down by the M44. We see both artillery fire, and, well, we're going to go liberate the pig pen. We're going to go see if we can get our Pascuches. That's what we're going to do. So, we end up finding the M44, put one shot into him, and I realise, oh, no, this could be bad. So, we're backing up, and then I decide, okay, you know what, I'm going to pull forward now. And the reason I just made that slight adjustment to my movement is because it was quite obvious where I was going. I was going backwards, which meant that the M44 knew exactly where I was going, and he could try and lead the shot to hit us as we pulled back. So the moment that I thought he'd be about ready to fire, we pulled forward, and that way he missed. You never really want to just drive in a straight line when artillery is trying to look at you, either forwards or backwards, because you make it very, very obvious where you're going to go, and it makes it very, very easy for them to actually blow you up. So make it as hard as humanly possible. So we're up to 4 kills with 1910 damage, 849 assistance, just trying to find the cheeky shot around the corner at this M44, but the accuracy on the gun was letting us down a little bit, and there we go, we secure our 5th kill of this game, 1953 damage with 849 assistance, and I'm thinking, ooh, a Top Gun's on. Sadly, we couldn't get after the M41 because he got shut down by our medium tank, but we know where the next tank alive is, and it was the Brumbayer up on top of the hill. And at this point, I go, oh no, the hunter becomes the hunted. And thankfully, the Brumbayer misses us, and we managed to get away with that. We could have died so easily there, but yeah, okay. So we're going to close the distance on this Brumbayer to just try and beat my team, essentially, to the punch. I mean, our team's decided to cap, so that means that there's less people trying to get to this Brumbayer, which means I have a higher chance of getting there to get my Top Gun, because I want that Top Gun. But the Brumbayer's coming over, and I see this and go, oh no, panic stations. Thankfully, we get very lucky. That Brumbayer could have quite happily just gone, screw this, YOLO, I will kill this Panzer IV Ankou, and game over. But thankfully for me, he didn't do that. He took a blind shot towards the guys at the cap, and we managed to go over before he reloads, shut him down, secure our Top Gun, and finish the game with what is a pretty nice total there for the Panzer IV H Ankou. The 2.1k damage, 1182 assistance, 6 kills, a Top Gun. And that's the Ankou. That's the Panzer IV H. Most of you will know what the Panzer IV H is about, because a lot of people will have already been through the Panzer IV H in the tech tree, and a lot of people will already own this vehicle as well, as I think it was part of an Ernop last year. But yeah, the Panzer IV H Ankou, it's a decent tier 5 medium tank. It's not anything extraordinary. It's not good or bad. It's just one of those that you sort of go, yeah, it's a tank. So that's the Girls and Panzer collaboration. That's the final 2 tanks from this collaboration for you in one wholesome video of derpy derpiness and normal medium tankiness. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!